Blog Talk Radio.
Shalom, Lekulam. Peace to everyone. Welcome to the Reset Button Season 3. This season, we welcome the listener to join us while we journey through Isaiah, one of the most controversial books in the Word. We would like to accomplish understanding of the salvation of Israel mentioned. Is it one spoken of in the New Testament? Is it someone we're waiting on? Or is it in the past? Walk through this with us as we attempt to uncover this mystery. The call-in number is 516-595-8238. And press 1 at any time that you have questions or that you would like to leave a comment. Our collective email is histaughtonestalkradio@gmail.com. Our Facebook page is His Taught Ones and His Taught Ones Talk Radio. We also have the YouTube page at His Taught Ones Talk Radio. Subscribe and we'll be posting our episodes every week. Shalom and have a good show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another season of His Taught Ones. Talmidim, yo, here we go, back at it again. You did, yourself, Shema and some friends. We learned hard through better sheets, the Melechim, now fresh start to what is hot. I never yin, here come the prophets, they're dropping some knowledge, abolishing doctrines, apology nonsense. They bring the word, you can call them the pinpoint, given by the hand of the head, he is the pinpoint. Or could it be it's another? So many differences from the children, it's a misnomer. Honestly, the aroma is hideously unbearable. There is no one accord. How dare we say that we're hearing you? I don't wanna see
Kadosh Yisrael, Holy One of Israel. Anachnu modim lecha al yom nosaf we al milah. We thank you for another day and for your word. Barech bivakasha et ha-mifkash hazeh. Please bless this gathering. Bo'u nishmiah. Let us say Amen. Amen.
Shalom, shalom, everyone. Welcome to another episode of His Taught Ones, where we'll be continuing in our contextual reading of Isaiah. We're getting along to the end pretty shortly. Within the next couple of weeks, we'll be done with this book and on to another season. I have my co-hosts here, Shema and Yediah. I'll let them say couple words of intro, starting with Shema. You go ahead first.
Shalom, everyone. Just looking forward to the show, see what the panelists and anyone else that's listening have to add. Appreciate all of you tuning in.
Shalom, it's your brother Yediah. Pretty much the same, just want to go ahead and see what these brothers had. I'm going to share what I had. Wasn't a whole lot, but, I want to expound on a few things if I can, if time permits. And that's it. I appreciate everybody for tuning in.
All right. So we could do. I just want to say, I did see some very good stuff in there, and just like always, just let the Most High be, our guide through this to be able to decipher these things. I think I got a couple of questions too that came to my mind, but other than that, we're gonna get it rolling. Let me see where I want to start. I think I'll start just in the same order that they just went in. Shema, you can start off, and then get the guide and myself, and we'll just keep it rolling like that. And I don't know if you're on mute, Shema.
Okay. Well, just starting off with the chapter. The chapter goes on with speaking and dealing with the righteous one. Then goes to talk about idolatrous people who deal with idols, and the Most High talks about like a sort of healing, a sort of healing moment, I guess you could say. I'll get into that down and when I bring out my points down there. But I just want to start with the first verse. It says, "The righteous one perishes, and no man takes it to heart. Men of kindness are gathered in with no one understanding that because of the impending evil, the righteous one was gathered in." Verse 2, "He will come in peace. They will rest on their resting places. He who walks in his integrity." I thought that was interesting. It's speaking of those walking in his integrity. I believe his integrity is more so speaking on the individual, and it's sort of bringing out that this righteous individual will only rest if he walks in integrity. That's just what I see. I don't know what you all see. That's my first point.
Is it on me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's on you.
All right, so just to kind of go off what Shema was bringing out, and just to give my opinion on it, is I see that, so in conjunction of, the righteous or those that are not walking righteously or walking in his ways being punished, or however you want to say it, the interesting thing in verse 1 where it says, this is how, I'm reading the New King James Version, this has rendered it. It said, merciful men are taken away, while no one considers that the righteous is taken away from evil. So, in conjunction with what he's saying, what I saw with that was just a way that they looked at righteous people dying, the concept of it. Like when punishment was coming, righteous people would be taken away. It kind of reminds me where it say, where in Bereshit or Genesis, it say that Enoch was not, for God took him, or something like that, to that effect. So we know that the flood was coming, and the Most it say that he took him. He walked with the Most High. So he, how did yours render, Shema? Those that do what?
What verse?
You saying they?
What
they
verse
say
are you talking about?
each one. I think it's 2. In the New King James version, say each one walking in his uprightness.
Verse 2 says, "He will come in peace. They will rest on their resting place. He who walks in his integrity."
Yeah, walks in his integrity. Like I said, the NKJV, it says each one walking in his uprightness. So, it say he walked with God. This is like some of the same type of verbiage or whatever when it comes to just walking righteously, walking in integrity or whatever. This kind of put me in the mindset of the situation with Enoch. You know what I'm saying? Different people have their different views on what actually happened with Enoch, but here it's kind of like the same verbiage, and it says the righteous is taken away from evil. But it's also talking about the righteous perish, and no man takes it to heart. So what I'm kind of seeing is there is just like a concept or a way of thinking, like when righteous people die, and you kind of like you don't really think about, when they die and then something like a judgment happen, and they die before the judgment. You know what I'm saying? This was a way that I saw that they was thinking like, okay, he was righteous, he didn't do nothing wrong, why he died or whatever. But it seems like there's a concept in place that they looked at it and said, he died to escape the evil that is to come from Yah. So that was my point. I don't know if I really touched on what Shema exactly was stating or whatever, but that was just my point, and it kind of linked, I thought, with what he was saying. So that's it for me on this one.
All right, good stuff. I saw the same thing as far as the taking away part, and just the verbiage of taking away, I've seen as being, for a long time now, seeing that as being dying. So when it's in contrast to saying about them perishing, that would probably almost, go that same route. And the Enoch story is one of the things that does always going to come to mind when saying taken away, because there's always a big debate, I guess, on whether or not he died or he didn't die. I know in other literature it talks about he died and gave an age in other literature, but I believe that's in Jasher, gives you the actual age or something of his death. So just something to look forward. I mean, to just put in the back of your mind if you actually do some other studying outside, or you see some things coming up. It's just something to keep there. That was one thing for sure that I was saying. I wanted to talk about 5 and 6 was my point. And it says in 5, inflaming yourself with idols under every tree, and slaying the children of the valleys under the clefts of the rocks. That was a question. But then I'm just going into 6. It says, among the smooth stones of the stream is thy portion. They are thy lot. Even to them that is poured a drink offering. You have poured offering and meat offering. Should I receive comfort in these? That's another question. Upon the high, lofty and high mountain thou hast made set thy bed, even thither went thou up to offer sacrifices high and lofty pride. This is talking about, Israel, but what I found it to be very interesting is that it says, just like we was talking about in previous chapters, should he take comfort in these drink offerings and meat offerings? The Most High, should he take comfort in these things? And even as they're proudly bringing their offerings up. And I believe it's all in correlation. You'll see some more stuff brought out later about the character of these people, why they was doing these things, and why it's frowned upon. But that's to be determined or whatever. Just another example of, to me, that offerings was not always boasted about and talked about as if it was the biggest thing on the list. Mainly, you might have to think also because you're talking about in exile, they already knew they're not doing no offerings in exile. For the most part, like, majority of offerings is in a place where he put his name, and in exile, you're talking to a group of people, to encourage them. Most High would have to also let them know, hey, don't get your mind wrapped around these offerings bringing salvation, because it ain't none. That is, and even when you did do it, you wasn't doing it the way I wanted you to do it anyway. So it didn't make no difference. That's my point, and I'll yield the flow.
I wanted to go down to verse 11. Verse 11, it reads, "Whom did you dread and fear, that you should have been deceitful to me? You did not remember me. You did not take me to your heart. Behold, I have been silent as always, but you did not fear me. I proclaim how you should be righteous and what deeds you should do, but they will not avail you." When I read this, I think of like the ancients and the forefathers, or those that was considered wise, that put things in play or set up for the children, so to speak, to help guide them. And it's like, then you look at like the rest of nature, and you look at the rest of things pertaining to nature, and I believe those that were led to write these things down, these instructions, were led to write them down because they observed the things of the Creator. And the only group, I will say, that seems to get it wrong is us. When you look at nature, it's like they go according to what was presented to them. And I look at this the same way when I see the ancestors who wrote down this literature or wrote down these kind of I won't say instructions, but I'll say instructions. And reading this, that's what pops in my head. We don't remember what is put out there for us to succeed. You do not take me to your heart. It's not in our heart. It goes back to that desire that I was speaking of last week. I proclaim how you should be righteous and what deeds you should do. That stuck out to me too. I proclaim how you should be righteous. Reason that stuck out to me is because, a lot of us, we have our own ideas of what righteous is. Who am I to tell you what righteous is to you? But if we are being followers of the Creator, of those who wrote down this literature, it is a way within here or within this that was shown how we should be righteous, and what deeds you should do. So, I believe that a lot of us are just living according to what we want to do, and that's fine, But when I read this, and we're going to see it in the next chapters too, when I read this, I don't know, I just felt a certain type of way, man. And then I just took a step back and looked at how, like I said, nature is, how it's so repetitive from the standpoint of it seemed like something put things in place. And these animals, these plants, anything of nature seem like they know, they don't rebel against the Creator, it seems. I could be wrong, but there's just something that I saw. And when I read this, that's what popped in my head. That's all I got. For that point.
All right. So I'm going to just do a quick one real quick. Something that I've been seeing for a long time as we've been going through Yeshayahu, dealing with idolatry. There is a view of what an idol is in today's modern time, but what I've been seeing through the book, what the Most High been addressing is these little statues and things of that nature. And what I've been seeing is he is totally against that. You having what you go and you carve of wood and of stone and you make a little statue, and that is what I am seeing as an idol according to, their time or whatever, and this is what the Most High is against. When you look in 13, Shema has said, that's what this chapter is really addressing, is Israel's idolatry, and it highlights the punishment of the wicked, but it also speaks of healing, leading, and restoring his people. But they got to get away from these idols. So in 13 it says, when you cry out, let your collection of idols deliver you. So in that, I saw that, those two things, one is say you're a collection of idols. They used to collect these little statues. So we even saw that back in Bereshit or Genesis when Yaakov told, his people, put away those idols. We're going to the house of God, and he told them to take their earrings off too. So, this is what I've been seeing consistently leading up to this point of what an idol is. And, just by him saying, when you cry out, let your collection of idols deliver you, he's sarcastically speaking to the people through the speaker of this narrative. And he say, a breath will take them, but he who puts his trust in me shall possess the land and shall inherit it, my holy mountain. So this is like a gesture with slight sarcasm in it, okay, y'all been collecting these idols, y'all call them gods, you know what I'm saying? So when you cry out, let them deliver you. You know what I'm saying? It's basically this sarcasm is to also bring a sense of reality, this is what y'all worship, this is what y'all so in love with, but it can't do nothing for you, but you want to cry out, don't cry out to me, cry out to the idols that you've been collecting. But then he turns around and say, he who puts trust in me shall possess the land. So he's saying, if you cry out and you trust me and you worship me as God, then you will see results. So that's my that's one of my points. I render the floor.
That's a good point. I had 13 also, so it all played. It all played hand in hand. I want to go just a little bit down from there. It says, I just want to go into 15 and 16. 16 is one of them. It was one of the most famous scriptures that used to be repeated in one of the last churches that I went to, as far as Sunday church goes or whatever. Thus says the high and lofty one that inhabits eternity, whose name is holy. This is the KJV. I dwell in the high and holy place with him, also that is contrite and a humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite ones. For I will not contend forever, neither will I be always wroth, for the spirit shall fail before me, and the souls which I have made. This is one of the most famous, like I said. This used to be, I guess, a scripture I would say to the basic saying, to be humble, and it was broken is a synonym, I believe, of contrite, if I'm not mistaken, just off the top of my head. And it was just, but reading it now next to the context, not saying we can't reflect it today, but in context, it brings a different meaning. It brings a whole nother meaning, like the real meaning why it was said. So, like I say, it doesn't change, my view or anything. It's always good to see something that you used to kind of use and hear, but kind of see it now in, like I say, the totality of it. And it's, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like, it's a point, but it's not really something like super big or whatever. Maybe not to y'all or whatever. But just one of those things I saw that's used or was used. And in actuality, it is talking about, we are talking about the salvation and what's to come. And I guess people would use it as a salvation thing later on, because anything can be recycled. But I never knew where it came from like that. So that's just a little something that I came out, nothing, what's it called, revelatory like that, or big. So I rented the flow back to Shemai on that one.
All right, I want to go down to verse 17. Now, verse 2, we spoke or I brought out where this translation says something along the lines of he who walks in his integrity. Then you roll down to verse 17. And we saw that this was on God's abode, going out of 15 through 17. Letting them know, verse 16, it won't forever be eternally wrathful. It says when the spirit that envelopes them is from me, I made their soul. So verse 17 says, I became angry because of his sinful thievery. I struck him. I hid myself and became angry because he continued waywardly in the path of his heart. That could be taken. That could be taken many ways. I guess, but and who's to say? Someone can say who's to say? We can say what he meant by in the path of his heart, because no one knows another person's heart. I guess, but what that said to me kind of like connects with the integrity and his integrity, and in his heart. It kind of is a connection for me, because it just shows that it is a distinction of where we can believe our heart is or our integrity is in comparison to what's been instituted by the Most High. That's all I got for the rest of this chapter.
All right. That was a good point. The caveat on that before I guess render my last point. You know, I definitely saw that, you know, just how the Most High is against the wicked or against wickedness altogether. You know, he read 17. You also look at 21. He says, there is no peace, says my God, for the wicked. So just in the context of this, you know, with them, you know, being punished, you know, going into captivity and everything, and him saying he gonna heal people, heal the nation and, you know, lead them and restore the people, you know, it's still stated at the end of the chapter that there is no peace for the wicked. So that was just something that highlighted how the Most High is against the wicked. And so for my last point that I wanted to bring out is in verse 14. It's not big, but it's something that I felt like had to be pointed out, you know. And it says, this is the latter part of verse 14. Well, I just read the whole thing, but my point is in the latter part. So he says, and one shall say, heap it up, prepare the way, take the stumbling block out of the way of my people. So this is an instance where the term stumbling block is used, but it's not used in the manner that most people would use it, as far as like something being a stumbling block, but actually being good, but it's a stumbling block to you because you don't understand or, you know, some of that nature. I don't fully understand the complete thought process of the way people use a stumbling block. Maybe the other panel members can help me out, help me to express what it's commonly used for. But right here, clearly is being said that this stumbling block is basically in the way of the people getting back on track. You know, I could be wrong, but this is how I'm seeing it. So, you know, I would love feedback from the panel or anybody else on that. And that's my last point.
All right. To answer this question on my side, with stumbling block is used in the same manner. Basically, you know, as far as the definition is for something being in the way of or used to trip up or to like usually it's used like, okay, this doctrine or whatever, or it's used to trip people up, or it's tripping people up, it's holding them back. So it's used as that, but it's more of a spiritual connotation, not you know, if you understand what I'm saying. And that's how we had, well, I used to perceive it or whatever. I used to hear people use it in the circles that I heard it, you know, without going too deep. And I don't know about, you know, I'll give him a chance in a minute to say, you know, if he.
So before you move on though, so would you, like, in the context of this, what are you seeing the stumbling block? Like, it says prepare the way. So basically, like in my visual, it's like you trying to get down a path. It's a stone in the middle of the path that you're supposed to be walking on. So in order to prepare that way, you got to remove all the stones so y'all could get through there easily. Like, that's how I'm seeing it in my mind. So the stumbling block wouldn't be a good thing, you know, something, and it's, you know, it's being said to remove it. Like, remove it, you know. So that's kind of like what I wanted to elaborate on a little bit. But
I see what you're saying. And well, in context of this and how this is used, I would say no, not at all. It's not used in the same way. Because even like the instances, I go a little deeper. It's like they telling them basically. Well, I would say something different, but I'm only gonna say what I'm about to say now. This is like they talk about idolatry and how they treat people. They say, you know, prepare the way. I'm thinking in context, like, remove that idolatry, remove their stuff. You know what I'm saying? So the stumbling block was idolatry. That's what I'm seeing. But if you want to go towards, you know, how it used to be thought of in
I don't want to too much drift off into that. I like what you said. Okay. I want that to just be left right there. You know what I'm saying?
Right
dealing with the context of this. That's what I want really to be highlighted. So I like what you said. I like that the stumbling block would be idolatry. So I want that to just resonate. So I don't even want you to go nowhere else because I just want that to be the last thought on that. So I appreciate
that. Good stuff. I'm glad because I really didn't want to go too deep because. All right, so y'all brought up. You know, I was going to bring up 21. I just want to bring in 20 also though. But the wicked are like a troubled sea when it cannot rest, whose waters cast up myrrh and dirt. There's no peace. Okay, says Yah to the wicked. For me, that in the visualization I have from that is like, you know, these wicked people always got something, you know, got something going on. It's always something. Right? But like troubled waters, it's like the waves crash and all this extra stuff. You know what I mean? It's like there's no peace, no rest. And that's a big thing, expression in this day and time. If you think about it, that'd be like the biggest thing for a little town or even any other town that's just trying to chill. Like, I just want some peace. We just want to chill and nobody mess with us. That's what Israelites is about. When it's wartime against them, that's not peace. When it's oppressions and stuff like that, they're not having peace with inside that atmosphere. So this concept of rest and salvation is big to a group of farmers and planters and ones that's about separation and nation just segregation type. Because they, at this point, ain't going out. They found their place. They're not trying to go out and do nothing, and then they got these troubles going on. I want that to be also known how the mindset of these people about salvation and rest, because it's starting to click more to me about rest and peace, and the concept of, then you start seeing how much war, and yeah, I don't know about y'all, but if y'all ever seen some old school type of war type of deals, it is not, a lot of people just died different. It was different, you know what I'm saying, than what we got now. Talking about bows and arrows, catapults, you talked about, you know what I mean, like, I ain't going to go too deep into it, but it just plays a different concept in my head about what real rest and salvation meant to Israel than what it meant to me at one point. So since, this is like reset, this is certain mind frame resets that I'm going through in my head, period. But that's all, man. I'm gonna leave it right there. We're gonna go on to the next chapter, and if nobody else has anything, and I know y'all didn't have any any more points, but
hey, I didn't know if Shemai wanted to speak on the question that I had asked, or if he could, if he had any commentary for it. If not, that's fine.
Nah, y'all good.
Okay. I wanted to I got a whole bunch of stuff from this next chapter coming up, but I'll let Yada start this chapter off. We'll just keep it in that order. So Yada, you have the floor.
All right. I just first want to give a little overview of it, the content. The Lord, through the speaker, addressed, his people's transgression. And in this, he kind of exposed to me their fakeness and illegitimate fasting. And like he also explains how to properly fast, and speaks of the results of properly fasting. So I'll start with one, and then I'll pass the mic. But my first point is just the importance for Israel to be told of their transgression, because it seemed like they was blind to it, blind to their transgression, and the significance of them knowing their wrongs was important, because they was doing things in vain. The things that they thought was right, or the things that they was doing that was thinking that it was going to get them somewhere, it was unprofitable. You can see that in Isaiah 58 verses 1 through 4. It say, "Cry aloud, spare not. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Tell my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins." So that right there just bringing out that it's important. It was important for them to know. The Most High didn't want to lead them in the dark, because sometimes we in the dark about certain things that we doing, and we thinking that we good, but you know what I'm saying, we got transgression, we got sin. And this is what was going on with Yaakov or Israel, you know, and the Most High wanted them to know. And the fact that he said, cry loud, spare not, is saying that, look, let it be known and don't sugarcoat nothing. You know what I'm saying? Don't not tell certain people, you know, let my people know. You know, going into 2, it say, yet they seek me daily. So this is big, you know. He's saying, you know, even though they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness. So it's like they continuing as if they is a nation that did righteousness. He said, and did not forsake the ordinances of their God. They asked me the ordinance of justice. They delight in approaching God. We have, this is 3, why have we fasted, they say, and you have not seen? Why have we afflicted our souls, and you take no notice? In fact, in the day of your fast, you find pleasure and exploit all your labors. I'm going to just read to 4 and then I'm going to be done. Indeed, you fast for strife and debate, and to strike with the fist of wickedness. You will not fast as you do this day, to make your voice heard on high. So the importance is that, you know, you can continue in seeking the Most High. You can continue in the ways of wanting to know the way of the Most High, wanting to be close to the Most High. It say take delight in approaching, so you want to be in the presence of the Most High. At the same as Israel at this point. They was going through the motions of wanting to do these things, but they wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, you know, and they was fasting the wrong way. The intentions of their heart was not with the Most High. You know, they were going through the motions. And he said, this is not the way to make your voice heard through this particular way that they was going about. So I'm going to leave that right there, and I'm going to let that be my point for now. Like I said, I don't really have much on this one, but I do want to elaborate on some things that I saw. So I pass the mic.
All right, good stuff, because he kind of, you know, let me roll right into what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to say. So as I'm going to elaborate, because he went down to 4, and I had 2 through 4. So I'm going to just read something at 4, because I wanted to just expound just a tad bit. Behold, you fast for strife and debate, and to smite with the fist of wickedness. Right? You shall not fast as you do this day to make your voice to be heard on high. I have to start. I'm glad he went there, because it's going to collaborate on what I'm going to bring out next. But so when I see that, I see strife, fighting, debating, you know what I'm saying? You fasting in here, for me, on aspects of contention with your fellow people and things along that sort. Because they fast until they feel, man, I just heard something on fasting the other day. Look at that. Look at the Most High. Fasting does something to the brain. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it releases the dopamine and the endorphin. So that was what people would use to always talk about that third eye opening. But it's some other technical things that kind of go on. because it's something that your body starts to do. That's how as deep as I'm going to go there. But I used to feel like, fasting, we used to fast to get these lessons that I'm supposed to do, present at the church. But I kind of picked up that from the pastor that I was with. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I fast and something, you know what I mean? So I kind of picked that up, and, that's how I used to do it. And I was like, boom, the Most High gave me this message. And I used to, and until I finished with the lesson, then I wouldn't even eat afterwards. But I would feel this high, this feeling, you know what I'm saying, the whole time. And then after you eat, that feeling kind of goes down. And that's why that's about as deep as I'm going to go right there. But I'm going to go down to 6. This is, my point. Is not this the fast that I have chosen? To loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke. And there's a question, that you break every yoke? Is it not to deal bread to the hungry, and that thou bringest poor and cast out to thy house? When thou seest the naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thy own flesh. Okay, and then it rose into 8. And I guess I'll stop there because I did have 8 to 9. I mean, 6 to 9. It says, then shall your light break forth as the morning, and thy health shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of Yah shall be your reward. Then shall thou call, and Yah shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, here I am. For if thou take away from the midst thee the yoke, the putting forth of the finger, and speaking vanity. Okay, and I'm just going to stop right there. But to go, just over a little bit of what he said is you fasted for the wrong stuff. And while you fasting for the wrong stuff, you're not getting these results. But if you fast for these, because this is the acceptable thing, this is what I really want. This is what you should be, doing. Releasing the bands of the wicked. This is acceptable fast. You're releasing the bands of the wicked. That you're feeding the hungry. That you're doing these things. To me, I've seen it as more of a you should be doing. These aspects. That's what I think. Now I might be wrong with that. It might be the fact that you fast and then this will happen to the homeless and all of that stuff. I didn't really see it that way. I seen it more of the acceptable fast would be you doing for these people that they really need your help. And then you'll see health spring forth and then I'm gonna talk to you and stuff like that. It ain't got nothing to do with this fast that you do. Okay, and I believe this fast, and especially this fast, is I believe this is the Day of Atonement, and I'll elaborate on that later. And with that, I'm going to pass the floor because I know I've been talking for a second. So, Shema, you have the floor if you want to elaborate or bring your point out or whatever.
I don't have any more points. I already touched on them.
This 58.
Yeah, I think he's saying that we hit everything that he was going to talk about.
Okay.
So, but I would want to elaborate on. I do feel like this is maybe Day of Atonement as well. Just looking at it, and so I agree with that. And then I also agree with the fact that it's saying that the fast that he appointed, which that's why I would say, because it talks about afflicting yourself. So That same thing, same verbiage of atonement. So that's the reason why I would say that I agree with that. Though I could be wrong, but that's just how I'm seeing it. And it says, well, I just wanted to elaborate. That was one of the things I wanted to elaborate on, as far as how to properly fast and the results of it. So all that stuff that you was reading from 6 on down to the end of the chapter basically speaks on properly fasting for, I guess, atonement, and then the results that come from those fasts. That's how I saw it. And, you read some of the things. So I don't feel like I should read it, but I would say if you want to know how to properly fast for atonement, then it's outlined from 6 to 14. And like I said, I could be wrong, but this is just what I'm seeing. So it's talking about share your bread. So this would I guess I don't know, share your bread with the hungry. Now I don't know if this means, because share, it could be, this could be taken in 2 ways. So just like this portion right here, share your bread with the hungry. So we know that it's saying, give the hungry something to eat. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, sure, you could also visualize it as you sitting down and eating with somebody that ain't got no food. And if that be the interpretation, then that means you're not actually not eating at all. So that's one thing, but it can be looked at the other way, just giving food to them and you not eating. I'm not opposed to that view either, but it can be looked at in another way, and it said, and that you bring to your house the poor who are cast out. When you see the naked, you cover them. So it's kind of like, basically, like you said, going and, being a help to those of need that have been cast out. So that's something big too with the cast out. Like, what do you mean cast out? That's something to look at as well. But I would just say go through these very carefully and look at it, and I believe this is outlining how you properly conduct the fast or the affliction of your soul for atonement. And that's all I got.
All right. I wanted to just bring out a couple of just something that has been talked about for a while, and with the side of the truth of going and doing the whatever, the feast days or Sabbath, all that. This has been used in correlation to regular 7-day Sabbath. And this is one of the verses where I was like, man, this sounds like atonement to me, but then it calls it a Sabbath. So atonement is a Sabbath as far as it's not supposed to work, therefore. And like a 13, if thou shalt turn thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath the delight, Sabbath to the Lord honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thy own ways, or finding thy own pleasures, nor speaking thy own words. Then shall thou delight thyself in Yah, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high place of earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of Yah has spoken. Okay, so now, because people see Sabbath, and they've used it and say, hey, this means the 7-day Sabbath. Don't do anything, don't even speak your own words. And literally, they be like, well, I've heard people say, all I do is read the Bible, the whole time because I don't want to speak nothing but I can't speak my own words because of this verse. If you think I'm being dramatic, I promise you, it's funny and goofy as I'll be sounding sometimes. I've literally heard somebody say they do not, their family just sit there and they just read the Bible. They don't want to be speaking. They just talk about the Most High, but they do not want to speak their own words at all every Shabbat. Okay, in correlation to what I'm seeing, and in context, you know, thinking of it as atonement and that being the Sabbath. You know what I'm saying? And their own ways was fasting for debates and stuff like that. Now the ways of the Most High is going and doing stuff for these people that really need your help. You know what I'm saying? That's how I'm reading it now. And anybody, you know, if y'all see the same or differently, or if you want to comment on that, this actual verse, which is 13, you know, let you know if that's what's up. But that's my last point, and it's open to if y'all want to speak on it or anything. I mean, nobody's in the queue though, so.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that sound about right to me. You know, I definitely believe that, you know, you brought out some good things with it. And again, like I said, you know, just read it. If you read it carefully and in context, you won't run into those issues of what you was speaking of how people twist this and say this is the 7th-day Shabbat rules or whatever. You know, clearly it talked about the affliction of souls and the fasting, which is one of the high Sabbath Day of Atonement, and basically he's rebuking them and correcting them on their actions of how they basically took it out of its original intent, and they not following it properly. They doing it the way that they see, and he's trying to guide them back to the original intent. So that's my comments on that.
All right, we're moving right along, because that's my last point on that one. So we go on into Isaiah 59. Yeah. All right, and Isaiah 59 is basically, you know, continuation of what the Most High is saying to Israel. And in this chapter, you hear, basically, I want to give a cap saying the relationship between Israel and the Most High and what they did to damage this relationship. And that's a little short summary, but I want to start in 2. It says, "But your iniquities have been separated between you and your Elohim, and your sins has hid his face from you, that he will not hear. For your hands are defiled with blood, and your fingers with iniquity. Your lips have spoken lies, and your tongue has muttered perversely." Right? So goes back to what I was saying. What they did, we all know the sin that's been repeated, and also in Isaiah over and over, it's about right rulings and treating the and fairness between such and such, and treating people that's less fortunate of you right. We've seen this term repeated over, and so we know that all these terms is, you know what I'm saying, solidified, basically. by the repetition. And he's saying basically hid his face from you. Now, I just want to just bring out this terminology, because everything cannot be used as literal terms. This is why literally looking at poetic language is kind of hard. Now, it says he hid his face from you, but then if we literally want to use every Israelite term used, we would have to say, well, hid his face. Well, I thought no man can see his face and live. I mean, you see how it is showing that somebody is seeing a face in something, obviously, because hiding the face would be the opposite, from your sins. And then it says no man has seen the face of the Most High. And now it's like, which way do you go? All right? So it's like 2 points into one, kind of, if you want to, in the same verse or whatever. But if you keep reading, that he will not hear you. So that's what in this terminology means. So that's my first point, and I will yield the floor to Shema.
I wanted to read verse 4 again. I'm not sure if you said a lot, so I don't even remember if you did verse 4. But I just wanted to read how it renders on mine. It says, no one calls out in righteousness. And I just wanted to point out, I want to bring out something that I had to note on, insert about this verse. It says, spiritual leaders do not rebuke the people. Their judges are unjust, and people are deceitful with one another. Hence, they always rely on empty promises. That's an insert for that verse, for that part of that verse, no one calls out in righteousness. Then it says, and no one is judged truthfully, trusting in emptiness and speaking vanity, conceiving wrongdoing and giving birth to wickedness. This is, I believe, it was a problem back then, and it's a problem today. That's my first point.
All right. I want to caveat on both of y'all points. First thing is I want to deal with is the face thing. Okay. A lot of people, when it comes to this face, you have to understand that face has multiple understandings in translation of just what we look at as face. So, face in Ivrit, it can mean a literal face, but in context, it also can mean presence. So, just like you say, you will not. A lot of people translate, you will not have any gods before me or before my face. It don't mean like his literal face. What he mean is you will not have any other gods in my presence. So he doesn't want you to have these idols in his presence. So I think we gotta make sure we understand how certain things are articulated in translation, like the actual meaning of it could get lost. So a face is not always a literal face. So I wanted to say that. So for me, it's no confusion. I know for many that understand this concept, is no confusion. For those that don't, it may cause some confusion within your mind, but I'm here to assure you that there is no confusion there. You just have to simply understand that it means presence in some instances. So, just like if somebody say, get out my face, you're not inside of their face. They just telling you, get bag up. You know what I'm saying? Get out of my face, So it's just different figures of speech that, we have to understand when it comes to the Ivrit. But to caveat on Shema's point, I did want to say that, that's an awesome point. I definitely, in context, this was an issue, seemingly, and it is an issue today, and we see, for my point, just bringing it all together, iniquity is what separated Israel from God in the context of this. Verse 2, but your iniquities have separated you from your God, and your sin has hidden his face, which we was just talking about, hidden his face, meaning he took his presence from you so that he will not hear. Basically, he's not with you, basically. His presence is not with you. As far as hearing, meaning answering, acting upon your request, because we know hear also means obey, Shema in the Hebrew. It don't just mean to hear like audibly. It does, but it also means to act. So when he says, so that he will not hear, so he will not act, his presence is not with you. That's why I say God with us, and it talks about salvation coming, because God is with you. So all that coincides with one another, that concept. Okay. Then we go to, 11 through 14. We also see this. We look for justice, but there is none. For salvation, like I was just saying a while ago. God with you, salvation come. He acting upon your behalf. For salvation, but it is far from us. His presence brings, him being with you brings this salvation. But if his face is from you, meaning his presence is away from you, is far from you, then the salvation don't come.
All right, we got a Brother Mercy in the queue. Before I guess we go on to the next point, so I'm going to let Brother Mercy in. All right,
hey,
Mercy.
I wanted to read 12 as well. My bad. For our transgressions are multiplied before you, and our sins testify against us. For our transgressions are with us, and we know that transgressions are with him. The Most High is not. And as for our iniquities, we know them. So it's like we know. You're not ignorant to this. Like, you've been told multiple times. So that's all I want to say for now.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah. So let me go back this way. All right, Brother Mercy.
Hey, happy Sabbath, brothers. Shalom.
No.
Shalom. And what I wanted to say was that speaking on the face, when I think about a face, what's located on the face is the mouth, right? And the prophets were normally the mouthpiece of Yahweh. So hiding his face could have simply meant he would hide his prophets and his priests from them. You know, that's what's going on today. Many of our prophets and priests are in hiding because they can't speak the truth. So, you know, even in the days of Elijah, what was going on? They were killing the prophets, and the prophets were in hiding. That's why Elijah thought he was the only one. He thought he was the only one, you know, left because all the rest of them were pretty much probably hiding from King Ahab. But, yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, that could be that. And then speaking on the verse between, you know, I hear that verse all the time. People say, when Yah said, you can't see my face and live, no man can see my face and live. The way I see that verse is not that no one can see his face, but that you can't see his face and live. In other words, if you see his face, you're going to have to die. And that's the way I see that, you know. So any man that claims to see his face, they're going to die. So that's how I interpret that. That's just my interpretation on that one. So I think his face, okay, when you say literal, I just meant that refers to the prophets and the priesthood to say, you know, I'm going to hide them, or you're not going to have people speaking the truth. Only thing you're going to have now is a bunch of political jargon, and you're going to have people speaking lies. The truth is not going to be out front. You know, so that's all I wanted to say. And then the fasting piece, which I thought was pretty good. The fasting was real good. You know, fasting in the sense of sharing, you know, your belongings to others or food. Because, like, if you say like if you were to open up a restaurant and start a business, you spend most of your time feeding others and fasting because you're not feeding yourself. Most of the time you're feeding others. So I see that as, like, if you wanted to start your own restaurant, you're fasting while you're serving others because you're not eating. So I see that as a principle of fasting, as in serving others, and that's how we can become profitable and be blessed by fasting, not eating, and serving others, and having them pay us. So that's all I see that as, and that's all. That's just my take.
All right, Brother Mercy. I'm going to take you out of the queue. Off of the line. I don't know if any of you brothers had something to comment on what Brother Mercy has said. I'll actually give you a couple seconds to speak before I move on.
Yeah, it was something that he said that I wanted to ask about. What did he say? He said something to the effect of, it just slipped my mind, man. He said something that I was going to ask him a question. Maybe it'll come back.
Okay. If they come back, you know, at any time, let us know. So I would just want to keep going with some of this stuff that was actually talked about. Their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed innocent blood. Their thoughts are thoughts of iniquity, wasting and instructions on their path.
It came back whenever you get
okay,
time to let me in.
You got it.
All right, so he spoke of King Ahaz. So I just want to ask, is he seeing all this in correlation with that time frame?
All right, Brother Mercy, you're alive.
Yeah, but what I wanted to say is I don't see it limited to that time frame because I believe history repeats itself. So I think it happened during that time and it's happening again. So that's my answer.
Cool. So just before we move on, so I understand completely, and we seeing eye to eye. You saying that in the context of this, you believe this was during when King Ahaz was set out to rid the prophets, and they was in hiding during this, narrative here. But that type of situation or plot or theme or whatever is a continual thing. Would that be?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's continual.
Okay.
They always been trying to kill the prophets.
All right, got it. All right, but in context, you mention that because you feel like in the context of this narrative, as it was laid out, was during that time.
Well, I'm not going to limit it to that time. I'm not going to limit it to that.
But it's not limited to that.
Yeah, it could be that time, and it could be. I really see parallels between that time, King Ahab's time, because that's what was going on during that time. The prophets were in hiding. So I see that as what he means by hiding my face, because the people were, okay, who was in the Most High's presence? It was the prophets and the priests. Let's call it what it is. Only the priests and prophets were in the Most High's presence, because only they could enter the Holy of Holies. So let's just call it what it is. Ain't nobody in his presence but the prophet or priest.
The heat is on. The heat is on. All right, Brother Mercy, if you ain't have anything else to say, we'll take you out. If y'all don't, if y'all dialogue, if that's sufficient, you got something else to say here today, I was just gonna at least put them on.
Nah, I don't wanna harp or spend too much time. I got the answer that I needed, so I understand what he's saying, so I'm good.
Brother Mercy, I already muted you. You know what to do, as need be. So, in 7, somebody says the feet run to evil and they make haste to shed innocent blood. I promise this is like repeated in a proverb somewhere. I know it's from fact or something. Like things hated, so it just all kind of clicks in sometimes, especially when you see it in the one place and then it's repeated somewhere else. That was one of my favorite scriptures alone. And 8, the way of peace they know not, and there is no judgment in their going. They have made them crooked paths. Whoever goeth therein shall not know peace. Right. I'm just gonna read 9. Therefore is judgment far from us, neither does justice overtake us. We wait for light, but behold obscurity, for brightness, for we walk in darkness. All right. I just wanted to point out more characteristics because I didn't want to continue to read down. This is still saying, context of their iniquities and how they act and what they're doing to offend the Most High. All right, these are the characteristics of all in all. And yes, I do believe people carry these characteristics, and they will forever carry these characteristics as time go on. You know what I mean? As far as like as a people or as nations, I mean, we've always seen the same thing. Now, we can go back to last week's ratio. I mean, they don't have to want to change. Want to have that type of deal. You know what I mean? The sad part about it is it's not always the case, And that everybody thinking harmoniously, every last person in the world that's seeing more like fantasy land to me. So, but these type of people will have no rest. You know what I'm saying? These type of people will be like the troubled seed. This type of deal. They won't have they won't be privileged like the ones that do right. This is the message. This is going forward for the time. Right? So, I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to pass the floor of the mic to Shema.
Verse 12 goes into like what y'all brought out in the first chapter, I believe. Excuse me. He said something about going in connection to, well, maybe it was 58. Sorry, cry out. So like and admitting your sin, so to speak. So verses 9 through like 19, I want to say, is like Israel's lament and confession or whatnot. But verse 12 I wanted to bring out because it connects again with the integrity in their hearts that I brought out in the other chapters. Verse 12 says, "For our willful sins have increased before you, and our transgressions have testified against us. For our willful sins are with us, and we are aware of our iniquities. Defiance and denial of Yah, and withdrawal from after our Elohim, speaking of oppression and rebellion, conceiving and contemplating words of falsehood from the heart." So I just wanted to bring that out, and I don't know. We'll see. I'll take the version of the sin, conceiving and contemplating words of falsehood from the heart. I do kind of wonder what y'all think of that. As I do, once y'all bring it up, I'm just going to go and make sure that the actual rendition in Hebrew is Lev.
All right, so so this is very interesting. Kind of like Brother Mercy was saying, like I wanted to understand what he was saying. It wasn't like I'm trying to back him into a corner or nothing like that. So I just wanted to understand exactly what he was saying, because like I could feel that, but like even with this, he's speaking directly to these people in their time, right?
Right.
But I can see this as a perpetual, like it doesn't, what I want people to understand is that just because this in context is relating to the people of that time doesn't mean that this cannot relate to our time or any generation after this. The only thing that I'm saying when you're reading in context, you know what I mean, you keeping it in context, but you also looking at the situation and saying, man, I could see this right now. But it doesn't mean that he was talking to us. You know what I'm saying? So, but in a sense he is, because his words are like eternal, like it always have relevance. These words last. We can always look at this and compare it to any situation. So with this is what I'm seeing, like just going off of what Shema brought out, he was like in transgressing and lying against the Lord and departing from our God, speaking oppression and revolt. It's crazy because this is like the biggest two things right now. Like those are opposing words, oppression and revolt. You revolt to get out of oppression. So you hear of this speaking of oppression, and you hear of saying, okay, we're going to revolt. Conceiving and uttering from the heart words of falsehood. That's what the NKJV rendered it as. I think the version that you had, Shema, is good. I mean, it's the same thing, but it's like this stuff is coming from your heart, out of the how to say, I'm trying to think exactly how it is, but basically what's in your heart is what you speak. It's a certain way that is said. If y'all can think of it right now, I'm having a brain lapse right now. But in the abundance of the heart, the mouth shall speak. There you go. Okay, so that's basically what I'm seeing. This is hitting on. You know, these things are conceived in your heart before you utter them out your mouth. You know, if your heart is false, your word's going to be false. It say justice is turned back, and righteousness stands afar off. So basically, when you look at the overall culture of this thing, you got people, you know, lying against the Most High. They say one thing, you know, but the what's in their heart basically is what's having them lying against the Most High, saying certain things that don't line up with the Most High. Their actions not lining up with the Most High, and that leaves. And this is my point that I want to bring out, that it's actually evolved just from, you know, this little dialogue right here. Righteousness stands afar off. What I'm getting from this, which I can definitely see relating to this time and age right now, righteousness stands far off. True righteousness stands afar off, I believe, is what was said in this generation. Just like this is in context with him addressing them in the feast. We still see today people doing these feast days, people doing the what's it called, but righteousness, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, you could respect it or you don't have to, you know, but it's still going to be my opinion at the end of the day, because this is what I see. You know, it's in vain. You know, righteousness is still afar off. And it say, for truth is falling in the street. This truth is not standing, man, because people straight up wicked, and they lying against the Most High. They ain't rocking with y'all like that. And this is how these people was. And so it say, for truth is falling in the street, and iniquity, not iniquity. It say, so truth fails, and he who departs from evil makes himself a prey. The truth is failing. It was failing then, it's failing now. Because people ain't handling this truth like it's supposed to be handled. And the people that depart from evil, you just make yourself a prey. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that these people that's supposed to uphold righteousness ain't upholding it like it's supposed to be. So when you come out and you depart from evil, for real, you making yourself a prey amongst those people. So that's the point I wanted to make. I got one more point just to let y'all know.
All right. I'm going to have to pass the mic for a second. I have to do something right now. So if you give me a second, that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, I don't have anything. That was my last point I brought up.
I'll take it, and it'll be my last point. So in 21, it says, as for me, says the Lord, this is my covenant with them. My spirit who is upon you and my words which I have put in your mouth shall not depart from your mouth, nor from the mouth of your descendants, nor from the mouth of your descendants' descendants, says the Lord, from this time and forevermore. So it's a lot that can be talked about with that, but, that's the promise of the Most High. One of the biggest things that I see with this is he said, my spirit is upon you. This is in the present, but this also lays out that this is a perpetual thing, because it said descendants, descendants, descendants. So this is, you don't have to guess with this. You know what I'm saying? This is a for sure thing. And that's the only time that I can really say that, yeah, this was meant for generations to come. You know what I'm saying? I think this is a clear cut understanding that if the Most High wants you to know, or want it to be known that this is for a perpetual thing, he will say it. He don't have to leave you in the dark guessing or to speculate. He'll put it in the text. Also, this covenant, this is his agreement, with them. Who is them? Those who his spirit is upon. And also, lastly, it's talking about the words. How he say, I'll put my words in his mouth. Like, that was in context. When we read that in context in Deuteronomy or Devarim, it was specifically for a specific person, but he constantly says this, putting words in somebody's mouth. But that particular, in context, we identify who that was for. But again, that doesn't take away from the fact that he puts his words in more than one person's mouth. And this attests to that concept and way of thinking. So, I think sometimes we want to make things fit, and we don't have to. If we just keep reading in context and we see these things, we don't have to do that. Let the book tell the story. And that's my last point for this chapter, unless somebody say anything that sparks my interest and I want to caveat or dialogue on that point.
All right. I'm going to first off say some good stuff brought out. Another point that I did have is just point out some a little bit of verbiage. There's a point where I had to step away for a minute, so I apologize if I repeat anything. But this verbiage that I've seen before, and this is the original place where I know it comes from now. This is just something I've seen in 16. Tyler, there was no man and wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore, his arm brought salvation unto him, and his righteousness sustained him. 17. For he put on righteousness as a breastplate and helmet of salvation upon his head. Right now, those two terms I've seen before, and as far as being the armor of God. And then, but I've never seen these other parts right here. And he put on the garment of vengeance for clothing, and it was clad with zeal as a cloak. Now, I've never seen those two more parts of the armor of the Most High. I guess they left out the vengeance and the zeal. but it's okay. And then it talked, and then in context, it's talking about what it's doing, and according to their deeds, according to he will pay his fury to his adversaries, recompense to his enemies in the odds, he will repay recompense. Okay. I wanted to say, basically, like when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, I've seen these words before, so, but it's got some addition to it, and what it's talking about, just to back up as far as the perpetual and, people falling in the same thing. Like I said, I agree, history can always repeat itself. But in context, we're talking about, for me, we're talking about this salvation. And if we link it to some sort of perpetual, like boom, I mean, yes, the characteristics of beings that need to be changed all day. The thing that you also have to understand is salvation linked to some of these words. You know what I mean? Like, I think all in all, we all trying to figure out how to get out of some situation and try to, make this thing better, or the way that we see or perceive life, or for even some maybe afterlife. I don't know. I'm saying somebody wants to better their situation, and we're looking towards these scriptures to try to figure out what's going on in it. So, yeah, some of the characteristics things say, okay, I seen they did this, I don't want to do this. I see they did this, I might want to do this, that, and the other. But I cannot, necessarily just apply and say everything right here fits to me. It has to, because of certain characteristics that do fit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just, I'm not saying nobody is saying it, but that's just, for me, because I know some people might say, well, this fits our life, and yes, some of the situations fit our life, but this isn't 100% fit our life, because we don't have 100% going on what they actually did, and some of this stuff doesn't fit your life. It doesn't even apply to the time frame. So it's like you're basically still picking and choosing which parts sound even prevalent to whatever your situation going to. But to someone else, different parts of the Bible speaks to them because they go and got their thing going on. So, yes, it's everlasting. It works forever. And the word can help you in aspects that it can help a lot of people, just depending on whatever situation that you're going through. It's been inspiration. It's been all kind of things, prophetic word. It's been law and all that. At the end of the day, this is talking about them first and foremost. And anything that we feel fits, time is what we feel for sure from our perception of what we go through. This was the reality because we've seen that as a nation. Other stuff is like, this is what I perceive. No, the next person might not perceive the world as you perceive it because times have changed and whatever, So, so the argument might spark up, say, oh, yeah, no, this is this is this time, because of the different eyes that people perceive life at. Like, if you walk around and you don't see nobody that fit these characteristics, you don't even think that got nothing to do with what you got going on, so it's hard to convince somebody like that. But if somebody sees that, they say, yeah, I see this, and they got examples of it, you know what I'm saying? And so on and so forth. That's in correlation to what, I wanted to go back and make sure I touched on what I heard earlier. And I think my last thing I wanted to bring out was the last verse. As for me, this is my covenant with them that says, Yah, my spirit that is upon thee, and my words which I have put in thy mouth shall not depart out of thy mouth, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, says Yah from henceforth and forever. I thought this spirit that was upon thee was to Isaiah, and that's what I did have at the end when I was like, my spirit is upon thee, and my words are put in my mouth. Okay, Is that talking about Isaiah? What are you talking about? But wait a minute. Let me go to my context a little bit. And the Redeemer shall come to Zion, and upon them and turn from transgression. And Jacob says, Yah. Well, no, this is for them. But then now this opened up. I had to read it again. I was like, why did I have this highlighted? I actually thought this was something else because I actually accidentally read too far ahead. And it's something else that I want to point out, I think, in a couple of the chapters up. But, all right, in 21, as for me, this is my covenant with them, says Yah. My spirit that is upon thee, and my words which I have put in thy mouth, shall not depart out of thy mouth, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, says Yah, from henceforth and forever. What I saw is like my spirit that is upon thee, and you know what I'm saying, like we've always been talking about this spirit and so on and so forth. And I know sometimes people talk about the spirit was not even available till later on. I used to say that. So I know people say it because I used to think that. I thought the spirit wasn't even available until after a certain event happened. And nobody before that really, really wasn't even talked about. But as the more and more that I look, especially started to be in Isaiah, the Most High talk about His Spirit being upon people and more so of a relationship on a personal basis with people because their way through to Him used to be through Levites and through the priests and all this, the whole way it's set up. But no temple, no priest. Scattered, not necessarily somebody that's there for your intercession. Okay, you can go like to back to he saw there was no man and wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore, his arm brought salvation into him, and his righteousness it sustained him. Okay, but my point is, go back to an exile state where the temple is destroyed. There is no priest, nothing. There is no offering, nothing. So it has to be expressed that people have to turn their ways to the Most High on a personal level without a bit of offering to be able to do it, without somebody that's going to take away your sins. The Most High has to take these away, and He's got to do it from your own heart and your chain. And He's giving them the benefits of the wicked this and the righteous this. This is what's going on. So that's all I got really, as far as up to the end of the chapter. And if anybody has anything to say, this would be the time to. Brother Mercy, I see Brother Mercy.
Yeah, I was going to say you got Brother Mercy in the queue. Again, I just want to say that, this is the Most High promised for those that He put His Spirit upon. Basically His Spirit will continue through those generations of those who, He made the agreement with, that He got the covenant, and it'll be a continual, perpetual thing. That's clear cut in verse 21. So I don't have anything. So right now I'm just going to say, after you let Mercy in, I don't think Shamar got anything. If you don't have anything, I guess, I'm ready to wrap it up and close out the show whenever you're ready.
All right. I'm going to let Brother Mercy in. Then, let's see if we have anything to comment or whatever off of that. We're going to go into closing statements, and that's it. So, Brother Mercy, you're live.
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to say that there were priests. The priesthood did exist prior to the temple. and you don't need a temple to have a priest. Okay, I've heard that argument made so many times by Jewish religious groups, and I disagree wholeheartedly. The priesthood existed prior to the temple. The priesthood existed during the altar was in Genesis. Abraham built an altar. You don't need a temple for an altar. You know, you can have an altar. The altar existed prior to the temple. The prophets existed prior to the temple. So everybody say, well, we can't have no prophets and priests today because we ain't got no temple. We can't build an altar because we ain't got no temple. That's not true, because before there was a temple, we had all these things. The temple was the icing on the cake. So I just wanted to say that, this is what the temple does. It centralizes everything. In other words, when the temple was built, you could no longer build an altar outside the temple. That was the purpose for the temple, to centralize worship. So in other words, you can't build an altar outside the temple after the temple was built. But prior to that, you could build an altar anywhere. Your worship was not limited to a certain location. But so people say that so they can get out of obeying Torah. I'm not saying that's the argument that everybody's making, but a lot of people make those arguments because they don't want to do certain aspects of it. So I just say that to say a lot of things existed before there was a temple. And, so I just say that we could do some of those things, maybe not legally in certain areas. You got to go to a location where it's legal. So we got to talk about those aspects, and then circumcision and all those things. But I just wanted to say, too, the prophets and priests, last thing, were the only ones that could go in the presence of the Most High. We talking about the face. Only the prophets and priests were allowed in the presence of the Most High. No one, the common people were not allowed. So when you talk about the face, the mouthpiece is there, the eyes is there. So his prophets and priests a lot of time played that role among the people. They played the mouthpiece of the Most High. They understood the words of the Most High come from the mouth of the prophets, and the mouth is located on the face. So people correlated the prophets and priests with the voice of the Most High. So, that's just how it is, and that's why we're in the mess we're in today, because we don't have that set up. We don't have a priesthood. We don't have the prophets like Elijah and Moses and the people we're reading about. Because, I ain't going to say we don't have it. I'll just say they might be hiding. So I'll just say it that way. And maybe one day Most High bring his face back out so we can hear his real and true voice. But that's only probably going to happen if the persecution stops. But I don't know. Or maybe the prophets of old endured persecution. They say that they endured persecution. So that's no excuse. But that's all I wanted to say.
All right. Hold on, Brother Martin. I'm going to take you out of the queue. And I want to comment a little bit. As far as, I guess, priests being beforehand, let me clarify what I mean. Them priestly duties that people link to their sins and their forgiveness, those are done away with without a temple. Those same priestly duties that was told that you only do inside of the temple. Now you have a rule that's acclimated only to temple worship that voids out something, parts that you can do, period. We say those strange fires or those sacrifices for people that's not Levitical priests, Yeti said a long time ago, Brother Mercy, if you want to go live and get you a sacrifice going with your altar, then go ahead live. And when we see that cloud ascend down and the thunders and stuff like that get to roaring, hey, we might be apt to say we can do some of these same type of sacrifices that these Levitical priests was ordained to do only in a certain place. Outside of that place, Brother Mercy showed us the truth, the straight proof. But until then, I'll elect not to try to do as the sons of them did outside of and not the right way of doing it and got consumed. Because he said it was a strange fire because of what was supposed to be done. That's what I refer to. For the most hand, and people want to say, still Levitical priest. I go, if you want to say the bloodlines are still strong enough, so that would mean that there is bloodlines going there. But in retrospect, to saying that's the only way that people will hear from the Most High now, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. because, well, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I can't agree or disagree. I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. That would mean, you know, anybody that actually just heard from the Most High had it been a prophet, but what if they was just hearing from their life to tell them, hey, do this at this point in time? I mean, does that make them a prophet because the Most High used them, or does it make them a prophet that they always speaking out, or does it make it a prophet because he just talked to them at any moment of their life, or gave them a notion to do something at their job that's quicker, or that might even save their life? So it's kind of like a 50-50 to me, because, I mean, I know people that there might not be prophets that actually have heard from the Most High, but to try to kind of, but it was better, like for their benefit, hey, take this job or something. It's like, yeah, I had an urge, the Most High telling me to take this job. It was a seclusive event, you know what I mean? So I guess the range of what hearing means would have to be, you know, I guess furthermore the question. But other than that, as far as, like I say, the duties and a certain ceremonial ritual type of deals that needed to be done in a certain space, that's law. Unless we're going to change the law, certain things just can't be done without Levitical priests doing them at the temple. Anything other than that, you know, building altars, I don't think I've seen anything against building altars and you doing your own thing, but not calling it this certain duty that's secluded to another thing. I didn't see nothing wrong with that. If someone was to tell me that they could do every duty without the temple and make your own temple, I would have to see that in Scripture where that would verify that information. But as for me at this point, I couldn't go with that. I couldn't go with that conclusion. But that's all I want to say about that. And if nobody has anything to say, I mean, since I am talking, I could go with my closing statements. All right, nobody said anything, and nobody's first one to see. So it's been a good show. Went by a decent time frame. Let y'all get out there and enjoy your Shabbat. We're going back to our original time with 11. I think that's more conducive for a lot of people because it's able to get out and enjoy your family, your lives, your children. Thank y'all for tuning in. Catch us next week where we continue on with our contextuals, and y'all enjoy the rest of your Shabbat.